Sorry about that. I thought I didn't record that moment and was not live yet. Sorry. Anyway, before we get started, I thought I might as well show you a video from Watch Mojo. Watch Mojo. So this way there's no copyright infringement. That's why I started early, a little early. So we have an hour and 20 minutes and 20 minutes and 15 seconds left before the debate starts. So let's get started, shall we?
I am proud to announce my candidacy for President of the United States of America.
He's progressive, independent, and maybe the next President of the United States of America.
Some have tried to frame you as this fringe candidate, but a lot of the things you believe are things that the majority of Americans believe.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 reasons Bernie Sanders may actually become president.
1 million individuals this year will go bankrupt because of medically related costs. That's absurd.
For this list, we're counting down the surprising reasons why Sanders could be elected President of the United States of America, following his announcement of candidacy for the Democratic nomination in the 2016 presidential election.
Now is the time for a federal jobs program to create millions of decent-paying jobs.
Number 10. He fought for civil rights in the 60s.
I was arrested when I was a student protesting segregation of schools in Chicago.
It's true. Bernie Sanders has an extensive background in civil rights, as he was a student organizer for the Congress of Racial Equality while enrolled at the University of Chicago.
African-American youth unemployment is totally off the charts. We've got to put young people to work. We've got to give them an education rather than putting them in jail.
But his major challenge today will be convincing non-white voters of his policies rather than referencing events from half a century ago.
Last night, in a show of force, police in riot gear used tear gas and beanbag rounds to disperse crowds.
In a time of social unrest and social media influence, Mr. Sanders will not only have to focus on the voices of minorities, but also to hear their collective voices.
But anybody who thinks we're anywhere near where we should be in terms of creating a non-discriminatory society is dead wrong.
Number 9. He'd be the first non-Christian president in U.S. history.
The problems we face did not come down from the heavens. They are made by bad human decisions. And good human decisions can change them.
Born in Brooklyn, New York, Bernie Sanders was raised by Jewish parents. His father emigrated from Poland after his family perished in the Holocaust, and his mother grew up in a Jewish New York home.
An African American has broken the barrier as old as the Republic. An astonishing candidate, an astonishing campaign, a seismic shift in American politics.
America made history by electing their first African American president in Barack Obama in 2007. And while Hillary Clinton may ultimately become the first woman to reach the position,
and I hope you'll join me on this journey,
it's perhaps fitting that a progressive-thinking non-Christian like Bernie Sanders is suddenly considered for the Democratic nomination.
But it will not happen unless we stand up and fight back for not only ourselves, but for our kids and future generations.
Number 8. He has a consistent progressive voting record.
Middle class is collapsing, poverty is up, and the rich are doing phenomenally well. What do you do?
While Bernie Sanders may be a new name to some, he's long been a defender of American manufacturing, climate change awareness, and both the middle and lower classes.
Do you give one whit of concern to the middle class and working families of this country? That's my question.
In 2003, he dropped some forceful words on Alan Greenspan, the former chairman of the Federal Reserve. And as television commentators will inevitably shift their attention to Hillary Clinton during campaign interviews.
Is Hillary Clinton committed to this cause, as are you?
Wolf, you have to ask Hillary.
Well, what do you think?
I don't work for her. I don't know.
Sanders remains steadfast about his concern for not only the next generation of Americans, but for all of those whom will inhabit the planet in a distant future. Those forced to live with any mistakes being made now.
They're sick and tired of working longer hours for low wages, while at the same time 99% of all new income generated is going to the top 1%.
Number 7. He supports universal health care.
Over 18,000 Americans die every single year because they don't have access to a doctor when they need that access. That's wrong.
This is a critical aspect of Bernie Sanders' campaign, and it's something that Americans can embrace. Rather than spreading paranoia about the threats of other countries, Sanders supports the healthcare model of Scandinavia and the concept that Americans should receive free healthcare as a fundamental human right.
The United States of America remains the only major country on earth that does not guarantee healthcare to our people as a right of citizenship.
Sanders' belief that more dollars should be spent on preventing disease rather than filling the pockets of officials resonates with many.
Let's pass the cost-effective way to provide universal health care to all of our people, and that is through a single-payer system.
Number 6, he's a socialist.
You describe yourself as a democratic socialist, and that is, some would say, a dangerous thing politically to describe you as.
Yes, Bernie Sanders is a socialist, and here's why.
So I think when people understand that in those countries, governments are working for the middle class rather than the billionaire class, I think we can get our message across.
In essence, Mr. Sanders is a socialist in that he's focused on protecting the lower and middle classes, along with the country in general.
Me, I make a lot of money. Did you know that, Senator?
I kind of guessed that.
Yeah, I make a lot. So what is my income tax rate under your administration? What would it be?
While TV commentators and pundits tend to fear and cringe at the socialist label, his supporters view Sanders' progressive thinking as one reason why he has historically dropped his partisan hat and thought about the larger picture.
The time is long overdue for these major corporations to start reinvesting in America and creating decent paying jobs right here.
All right, Bernie Sanders, everybody. Keep it going, Bernie.
Number 5. He has an honest demeanor and speaks his mind.
We can't go around telling people we're a free country when either the government or the corporate world knows every damn thing about you. That's not really freedom.
Okay, the idea of an honest politician is kind of a joke, but given Bernie Sanders' history as an independent, it seems like he may not care what people think about him when it comes to speaking the truth.
He's a long shot.
A long shot.
I don't think he's going to be taken too credibly.
Bernie Sanders is a socialist, for God's sake.
After all, Sanders is a long shot to win, but his no-nonsense demeanor is far from an act.
Does any of this matter to you?
In fact, it just may be one reason why so many voters seem to support his potential presidential nomination.
If anything, what I would like to ask of you.
Sure, Bernie may verbally stumble at times,
but I do have some other attributes that are better than that.
And he may not drop his Brooklyn accent to adapt to regional voters. But according to supporters, that's part of his charm. Number 4, he doesn't deny climate change.
The debate is over, except within the Republican Party.
Right.
Climate change is real. It is already causing devastating problems.
Here's the thing. Either you believe modern scientists or you don't. While some politicians stand behind usual partisan viewpoints,
God's still up there, he says. The arrogance of people to think that we human beings would be able to change what he is doing in the climate.
Oof, wow.
See, I love that. He's mad.
Bernie Sanders' independent and free-thinking mind appeals to young voters for whom the issue of climate change is a big deal.
So what an honor it is for me
to be part of this. Thank you very much, Bernie.
Along with Senator Barbara Boxer, Sanders set in motion the Global Warming Pollution Reduction Act of 2007, and he's also voted against the Keystone Pipeline system.
So we have got to defeat this Keystone Pipeline. We've got to rally the American people to do it, and we've got to get President Obama to be strong on this issue.
Number 3, he's anti-establishment, refuses super PACs.
The Supreme Court said these entities will not be corrupting because it's independent and it's fully disclosed. And I think arguably neither of those premises is really being borne out by the reality of modern campaigning.
Coined by reporter Eliza Newland Carney, the super PAC allows candidates to roll around in a pile of cash. But the committees may not make direct contributions to campaigns. They can, however, spend a ton of money promoting said candidate. With that being said, the anti-establishment Bernie Sanders is anti-super PAC.
So I don't think we're going to outspend Hillary Clinton or Jeb Bush or anybody else. But I think we are going to raise the kinds of money that we need to run a strong and winning campaign.
By supporting the middle class, Sanders has received an average contribution of around $43 per donation during his brief political campaign. But when you add it all up, there's enough for an independent to make a serious run at the Oval Office. It's a lofty goal, but the method behind the madness is representative of the American dream.
I don't need anybody's money. It's nice. I'm really rich.
Unlike Donald Trump, Americans can relate to the ideology of Bernie Sanders.
I think that we can raise a lot of small donations today. We opened up our website. We announced our candidacy, BernieSanders.com. I believe in the first few hours we've raised already $500,000.
Number 2, he's in favor of free or low-cost universities.
We're wasting the intellectual capital of so many bright young people.
Information is power, but unfortunately, higher education will break the bank. Today's college graduates find themselves in enormous debt upon entering the real world.
I have around $30,000 worth of student debt. It's kind of like a dark cloud that hangs over you.
And unless you come from an elite family, a good job is not always guaranteed. Bernie Sanders wants to put a Robin Hood tax on Wall Street speculation, which would ultimately create funding for free or low-cost tuition at public colleges and universities. The vision is the easy part, but young voters are leaning in.
Senator Sanders' proposal is exactly what the broken system of the U.S. higher education system needs. A free education means a free society.
A Bernie Sanders presidency gives America's students a shot at accessible higher education, rather than none at all, further explaining his rise.
And maybe at a time when my Republican friends just decided to put another $38 billion into the military, maybe we can cut military spending a little bit and put it into education.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are some honorable mentions.
Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont is the longest-serving independent in the history of Congress.
He's selling himself as more Jeb than Bush, but he is borrowing one thing from his brother: compassionate conservatism.
So enough of the rhetoric, enough of the speeches, enough about how everybody loves the veterans. Now is the time for action.
Number 1, policies for low and middle class instead of the 1%.
What they are saying is Congress seems to deal with everything except the reality facing the middle class.
You don't have to believe in climate change, free education, or even universal health care. But the fact remains that 1/10 of the top 1% in America has more money than essentially everybody else.
Wall Street now is doing phenomenally well while the middle class is disappearing. And you want to know why the American people are angry and disgusted and frustrated? That's why.
As a staunch defender of the common man and woman, Bernie Sanders hopes to distribute America's wealth by rebuilding the country's infrastructure, creating jobs, and slowly but surely changing the way of life for Americans.
I've proposed spending $1 trillion would create 13 million jobs over a 5-year period.
In other words, he wants to stop the growth of wealth inequality in the country. As the Bernie Sanders buzz continues to grow, it will be interesting to see if his popularity increases or stalls.
Feel the burn! Feel the burn!
Either way, his candor and progressive policies are hard to ignore.
At the end of the day, they may have the money, but we have the people, and when the people stand together, we can win. Thank you all very much.
Do you agree with our list?
And what I'm saying to you is yes.
Do you think Bernie Sanders may actually become president? For more mind-blowing top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
Because you're an honest person. I think you just don't know what's going on in the real world.
Well, what'd you think? Did you like that? Let's see. Oh wait. Did you like that? I guess by all the Welcome to a bankrupt country and Bernie gets in. Okay, that's wrong. Okay. Okay, I wanted to warn. Okay, I also wanted to warn you guys about something. It'll be quick. If I can find it in time. Better do it this way. I doubt I'll find it the other way in time. Here we go.
Monday.com is a work OS designed to manage any project or workflow with ease. The flexibility of the platform empowers teams.
Alright folks, so it looks like I may be the first one to sort of break this story here for you guys. But this is really bad sign. We all know what happened with the Iowa caucus, if you can even call it that. Of course, it was just a complete, unmitigated, complete debacle, as you guys know. They stole the election, gave it to Pete Buttigieg. They lied. They made up numbers that they're still refusing to fix. There's supposedly a recanvass going on. No updates as of yet. You know, I'll update you as soon as any come out, of course, for Iowa. But Iowa used this app, this really shady app called Shadow, or I don't know if Shadow was the company that helped make the app, but they made an app that completely just short-circuited. They did, they obviously cheated, and so Nevada is also a caucus, just like Iowa is, and so that's why we're all worried, and so they were like, we're going to use a different app, and so everybody was supposed to be excited about them saying that they're going to use a different app. Not that, we're not going to use an app at all because it's a very stupid.
Alright, time to get started.
And used by dermatologists.
1 in 3 deaths is caused by cardiovascular disease. Millions of patients are treated with statins, but up to 75% persistent cardiovascular risk still remains. Many have turned to fish oil supplements, others fenofibrates or niacin. But here's a number you should take to heart: 0. The number of FDA approvals these products have when added to statins to reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. Ask your doctor about an advancement in prescription therapies with proven protection. Visit truetoyourheart.com.
We eat to live, but food is so much more than that. It's actually baked into our culture and our politics. I'm Andrew Zimmern. I'm exploring our country, looking at the biggest social and political questions of the day through the lens of food. From fields to fisheries, our climate is in crisis.
Climate change is becoming something we can taste.
How is the climate crisis affecting the food we eat? Find out on the next What's Eating America.
We've got this fundamental thing about human beings, and we've got the way that we constitute our politics. And the danger is that if our politics grow too tribal, they grow excessively tribal, then we'll lose this sort of way of talking.
Why is this happening? With Chris Hayes. Subscribe now.
The main event is now a little more than an hour away here in Las Vegas as 6 Democratic presidential candidates debate before Saturday's Nevada caucus. You can watch the debate, of course, here on MSNBC in 1 hour at 9 o'clock Eastern. Then stay tuned for post-debate analysis. I'll be in the spin room talking to the candidates. And that's Hardball for now. Thanks for being with us. MSNBC's coverage of tonight's big debate continues right now with my colleague Rachel Maddow. Rachel.
Chris Matthews, thank you, my friend. Much appreciated. It's fun to have this handoff with you at an unusual time. Thanks for being with us tonight. Thanks for joining us this hour. Never a dull moment. This is a big night. We are less than 1 hour away from the Democratic candidates debate in Las Vegas. We are watching the candidates arrive. We are expecting them to be introduced within the hour. Over the course of this hour, we're going to have everything you need to know about tonight's debate and about the standing of the candidates heading into the debate and this unusual situation in which 2 states have already voted and 8 debates have already happened. But one of the candidates who's going to be on the stage tonight is going to be making his debut appearance there, sort of arriving halfway into Act 1. Every neck in the room is going to be craning tonight to see the new guy who will be on the stage, even though he won't be on the ballot in Nevada this weekend, nor will he be on the ballot in South Carolina next weekend either. Mike Bloomberg, former New York City mayor, is fast closing in on $500 million in ad spending already in this race to promote his unorthodox candidacy, in which he is skipping the 4 earliest voting states. Well, tonight he will be on the side of your screen that you can see there next to Elizabeth Warren, Vice President Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders in the middle, flanked by Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren, and then on the edges, Senator Amy Klobuchar and Mike Bloomberg. With Bloomberg there for the first time, Democratic voters tonight will have their first chance to see him debate, and his fellow candidates will have their first opportunity to take whatever shots at him they may have been saving up for this moment, while he has been burying them in unimaginable amounts of ads for weeks now. So we're going to get to all of that. Steve Kornacki is here to talk with us, among other things, about some of the eye-popping turnout numbers that we have already seen in the Nevada caucuses. We'll be talking with him about that and the latest polling and all the rest of it. But like I said, never a dull moment. As the candidates do prepare to take the stage within the hour, the New York Times was first to report tonight that the president is preparing to start a new director of national intelligence on the job as soon as tomorrow. His name is Rick Grenell. He is a Trump loyalist who has never served a day in the intelligence community in any capacity, which would be a new thing for somebody appointed to be the director of national intelligence. He had only ever held spokesman and communications type roles before President Trump appointed him to be ambassador to Germany. While he has served in that post during the Trump administration, Grenell and the State Department have refused to comment on allegations from Lev Parnas. That Ambassador Grenell was actually personally caught up in a part of the Ukraine scheme for which the president was recently impeached. According to Lev Parnas, Grenell agreed to help out a Kremlin-backed Ukrainian oligarch who is facing multiple federal felony charges by agreeing to alert him if the U.S. Justice Department was about to move to extradite him. Now, importantly, DOJ prosecutors say the oligarch in question here, Dmitry Firtash, prosecutors say he is an upper echelon associate of Russian organized crime. So if, in fact, Ambassador Rick Grenell did offer to give this guy a heads up to help him invade U.S. law enforcement, That would pose a very awkward set of questions for somebody who's about to be promoted to run U.S. intelligence. But the president is reported tonight to be planning to install Rick Grenell as the acting director of national intelligence as soon as tomorrow, whereupon Mr. Grenell would be in charge of all 17 U.S. intelligence agencies, despite having no intelligence experience whatsoever. If he's installed as acting director of national intelligence tomorrow, Mr. Grenell would also not bear any scrutiny or questions about his fitness for the role from the Senate unless and until the president decides to formally nominate him and put him up for Senate confirmation for the post someday, some way. So we are watching that late-breaking news tonight as the debate stage takes shape in Las Vegas. Also, President Trump today fired another senior official who played a role in the Ukraine scandal. Another official who raised objections to the president withholding military aid to Ukraine. His name is John Rood, R-O-O-D. He's the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. As President Trump was pressuring Ukraine to announce investigations into Joe Biden, withholding U.S. military aid to Ukraine as leverage until they did so, John Rood reportedly advised contemporaneously that that was a bad idea, that that would be dangerous to U.S. interests. CNN has published quotes from an email they say Rood sent at the time to the defense secretary, an email saying that the president holding up that military aid to Ukraine would, quote, undermine our defense priorities with a key partner in the strategic competition with Russia. In addition to expressing that objection, John Rood is also the Pentagon official who officially certified that Ukraine had met all of its anti-corruption benchmarks for receiving U.S. military aid, which of course gave lie to the White House defense that President Trump was just being an anti-corruption watchdog. You know how he does it when he withheld that military aid. But now that senior Pentagon official, John Rood, has been fired. He made his resignation letter public today, so there can be no ambiguity about it. It says right there at the top of his resignation letter that the president demanded his resignation. So we know that John Rood did not jump. He was pushed. Also today, I'm not sure anybody is quite sure what to make of this, but today in a courtroom in London, a lawyer for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange told a UK court that in 2017, President Trump offered a presidential pardon to Julian Assange as a quid pro quo. The offer, reportedly, was that President Trump would have the U.S. criminal case against Julian Assange dropped. He would pardon Assange if he, Julian Assange, would lie and say that the hack of Democratic emails during the 2016 campaign was not carried out by Russia. So lie and say Russia didn't do it, and the president will give you a pardon. That offer, according to Julian Assange's legal team, was reportedly delivered in person in 2017 by Republican Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, who has, in fact, said publicly in the past that he conveyed this type of pardon offer to Julian Assange. Now, though, it has been ruled admissible in Assange's case. It will be part of Assange's defense in court as he tries to avoid extradition to the United States himself, which presumably means that this particular claim is going to be tested in court in Britain, which should be fascinating. For their part, I should mention the White House is denying all of it today, since these claims were first made today in court. And of course, tomorrow, the Trump campaign's contact with WikiLeaks during the campaign. While WikiLeaks was strategically releasing the material that Russia had stolen, the Trump campaign's link to WikiLeaks during the campaign, Roger Stone, is due to be sentenced in federal court tomorrow. Mr. Stone was convicted of lying to investigators about his contacts with WikiLeaks. He was convicted of threatening a witness who could have exposed the lie. Roger Stone was found guilty on all 7 felony counts he was charged with. His sentencing is tomorrow. And there has, of course, been a crisis at the Justice Department over the past week, not to mention a bit of a national uproar, since Attorney General William Barr last week rescinded prosecutors' sentencing recommendation for Roger Stone. More than 2,000 former Justice Department officials have called for William Barr to resign as Attorney General because of that. Barr himself is now occasionally threatening to resign. The president has been threatening the judge in the case, not to mention individual jurors in the case. It has just been nuts. But tomorrow it will be a real federal judge who makes the real decision on Stone's sentence in an actual courtroom. The judge will decide tomorrow how much time Roger Stone is going to get, if any. I mean, Frankly, given what the last week has meant in this case, we all expect all hell to break loose, no matter what the judge's decision is. But that will happen tomorrow. So it is not an awesome time for the rule of law and, our basic foundational status as a constitutional republic. But it's also Wednesday, and that means tonight is the night that we are about to take a big step toward the Democratic Party lining up its candidate to try to beat Donald Trump, to make him a one-term president in the general election this fall. Iowa, the first contest in the primary, is literally still counting as of today, and they're not done yet. Iowa still basically looks like a tie between Sanders and Buttigieg. The second contest was New Hampshire. New Hampshire was narrowly won by Sanders over Buttigieg. In Nevada, where the candidates are facing off tonight and the caucuses are Saturday, the polling in Nevada says that Buttigieg is probably likely to have a harder time competing for the top spot in this third state than he did in the first two. In fact, in Nevada, Sanders is so confident in his standing that after the debate tonight, he is not even staying in Nevada ahead of Saturday's caucuses. Sanders' campaign is apparently so confident they're going to win in Nevada that Sanders is moving on to start campaigning in California, even as the caucuses are still pending this weekend. But let's take a look at that polling. And let's also look at this intriguing news on turnout, because after some meh turnout numbers in Iowa and okay turnout numbers in New Hampshire, look at what was just reported out of Nevada today. This was the turnout for the Nevada caucuses in 2016, about 84,000. That was all on one day at the Nevada caucuses 4 years ago. There was no early voting in 2016. This year, there is early voting for the caucuses, 3 days of it so far. And look, just with the early voting, even before the actual caucuses take place on Saturday, they're already in Nevada up past 77 votes. They are already closing in on the total number of caucus goers they had in Nevada in 2016, just 4 years ago. And that's before the caucuses even happened. I can't even really get my head around that. Joining us to help us get our heads around that and figure out what that means is the great Steve Kornacki. Steve, thank you so much. Please help me understand the significance of those numbers in Nevada.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of an open question. We can put them back on the screen there. Of course, this early caucus in Nevada, this tradition is a very recent tradition there. It dates back to 2008. So we've had all of 2 Democratic caucuses to compare to. As you mentioned, the turnout was about 84,000 last time around in the Obama-Clinton-Edwards race of 2008, very high Democratic interest year. It was about 117,000 in change. So you mentioned that number now, over 70,000 in the early vote. Here's the thing. We don't know exactly how much of the final share that's going to be, but we do know that in Nevada, early voting is very popular with people. In the 2018 midterm elections out in Nevada, about 2 out of every 3 votes that were cast statewide in that general election ended up being cast early, 2 out of 3. So there's a chance here that 70,000 and change that's been reported now by the state party could be the lion's share of all of the vote. But certainly you are getting close to that 84,000, raises the question of if you're going to get over 100,000, potentially challenge that 2008 mark. Of course, in these first 2 contests so far, turnout we saw in the Iowa caucuses, it was close to flat with 2016, only up a couple thousand. In New Hampshire, a more dramatic uptick from 250,000 turnout in the Democratic primary in 2016 up to nearly 300,000. In fact, that number in New Hampshire, that 2020 number, that was higher than the 2008 New Hampshire Democratic primary, the Obama-Clinton one. So that was more a significant uptick right there. In terms of the lay of the land here in Nevada, you mentioned this. This is the average of all the polling that's out there right now. Obviously, Sanders here, his campaign has been talking up the possibility. They say they're confident in his support with Hispanic voters, a reason potentially he'd be ahead here. But I caution you on the polling in Nevada, A, there isn't a lot of it. B, it is a hard poll, a hard state to poll, a reason why there isn't a lot of it. So that adds some suspense into Saturday's results. You got some polling out there. It's limited in its scope, and again, difficult state to poll. We mentioned Sanders' campaign saying they think he's got some significant support with Hispanic voters. This is the first state where you really have a significant non-white voting bloc here. You see about a quarter that's Hispanic or other, largely Hispanic here. Also double digits for the first time. We're going to have more than 10% here. Really, for the first time, we're going to have more than 3% of the Democratic electorate is African American in numbers based on 2016 turnout in the Democratic primaries and caucuses back then. So you will have a much more diverse electorate here. And one more thing I got to mention, this is the first caucus since Iowa. You remember all the issues in Iowa. We don't know if there are going to be issues like that here again in Nevada. There are some possibilities here. I can tell you Tom Perez, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, has told the Associated Press that he doesn't know if there will be results that are announced on Saturday. Keep that in mind here. Remember, what the DNC has mandated in 2020 for caucuses like Nevada and Iowa that had never been the case before is they say you have to report out 3 sets of numbers. You know, the initial preference when people first show up at their caucus sites or at their early voting sites. There's the reallocated preference, you know, after you account for the candidates who didn't hit 15% in precincts, and then the final results. It's the first time they've ever required that. I think that was a significant reason for all those delays out in Iowa. They had all sorts of errors with this number doesn't align with that number. This shouldn't look like that. Is that going to happen here again in Nevada? The state party insists that the tools that were used in Iowa that caused some issues out there will not be used out there in Nevada. But again, you've got folks dealing with numbers they haven't had to deal with before. These are volunteers at the caucus sites. There's this Google sheet that the state party has come up with to input results into. You've got to deal with this huge early vote to put that into the mix for the first time. And you got the chairman of the Democratic Party saying no guarantee here in his mind that you're actually going to get results on Saturday. We had that 24-hour delay in Iowa, nearly 24-hour delay. We'll see if that happens again.
Steve, the fact that they've got early voting in Nevada right now and they didn't have it in 2016, is that giving them an opportunity to work any of the kinks out? Or is it highlighting that there might be logistical difficulties? Is the early voting going smoothly?
Well, it's tough to say because here's the catch with it. You have all of these precincts where people are going to go on Saturday to participate in caucuses. You do not have one early voting location for every one precinct caucus location. You have fewer early voting locations. So what's happened is you go to these early voting things and you basically fill out, here's my first choice, here's my second choice, here's my third choice. It's almost like ranked choice voting. And then what happens is they get routed, the numbers get routed. They're supposed to get routed to whatever precinct you would normally be in on Saturday. And then the folks at the precinct supposedly are going to open up these iPads and they're going to have the numbers that have taken place from early voting routed into the iPad that they got in their individual precinct site. And they're going to look at the corner of the room and they're going to say, okay, we got 12 Biden people over here, we got 10 Warren people over here, 8 Klobuchar people over here, and they're going to write them down in the iPad, and it's going to be added with the early vote, and they're going to find out then this candidate hit 15%, that didn't hit 15%. That's supposedly how this is going to work on Saturday. Never happened before, so it's an experiment.
Oh, my God. A, caucuses are hard to begin with. B, they've never done it combined with the early voting. And C, no pressure after what just happened in Iowa.
Exactly.
What could possibly go wrong? Steve Kornacki will be checking back in with you later on this hour. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Rachel.
All right, much more to come tonight as we gear up for tonight's Democratic presidential debate. We are awaiting live remarks from the debate stage, including from former Senate Majority Leader and Nevada power broker Harry Reid, who says that he is uncommitted in the caucuses already. We're also going to be hearing from Tom Perez, the Democratic chairman. The candidates will be arriving soon. It's debate night. Woohoo! Stay with us.
When managing diabetes, you can't always stop for a finger stick. With the Freestyle Libre 14-day system, a continuous glucose monitor, you don't have to. With a painless 1-second scan, you can check your glucose with a smartphone or reader, so you can stay in the moment, no matter where you are or what you're doing. Ask your doctor for a prescription for the Freestyle Libre 14-day system. You can do it without finger sticks. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
Saturdays happen. Pain happens. Aleve it. Aleve is proven stronger and longer on pain than Tylenol. When pain happens, Aleve it. All day strong.
Want amazing looking eyes? Try Lumify, the one-of-a-kind eye drops that Allure magazine said could be a game changer. Lumify dramatically reduces redness to help your eyes look whiter and brighter for up to 8 hours. With just one drop, Lumify, you won't believe your eyes.
Different folks have different strokes. Yeah. Oh, get it, baby. Different moves for different grooves. Yeah.
Whether your beauty routine is 3 steps or 57, make Nature's Bounty Hair, Skin, and Nails Step 1. It's the #1 brand uniquely formulated for silky hair, glowing skin, and healthy nails. Nature's Bounty, because you're better off healthy.
We all use our cell phones very differently.
Why the French family chose Verizon.
Someone's streaming sports, someone's video chatting, friends. My parents are getting older, so knowing that I can get in touch with them at any time is really comforting.
Grandma, you're on TV. Wow, what channel?
The network more people rely on gives you more. Like plans your family can mix and match starting at just $35, a year of Disney Plus included. And now, get a Verizon Stream TV on Us for access to all your favorite shows and movies in 4K. That's Verizon.
Feel alive.
There was a time when it seemed like gangs ruled the streets of Fresno. Then Jerry Dyer became police chief, and crime dropped dramatically. Jerry Dyer took on the gangs and got our neighborhoods back.
Stand for what we believe in.
Now Jerry Dyer wants to be mayor. He plans to address the needs of the homeless and keep our streets and parks safer. Jerry Dyer will enforce local codes, protect property, and make our communities safer and cleaner. And yes, Jerry Dyer will take the fight against violent crime to an all-new level. Vote Jerry Dyer for mayor.
Welcome back to our coverage of the Democratic candidates debate, which is about to start in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are starting to see Nevada officials and Democratic Party officials addressing the crowd, telling them what's going on. We've seen a couple of candidates arrive within the past few minutes. Senator Amy Klobuchar looking very happy as she arrives with some of her staff tonight to take their place on the stage. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders arriving along with his wife Jane and some of their staff. We've seen the candidates arriving at different times. There's Mike Bloomberg tonight arriving. All of the candidates, we believe, are going to be announced right towards the top of the hour. There will be a number of different people, as I mentioned, speaking to the audience about what's about to happen, including Democratic Party Chairman Tom Perez. I think we're going to try to take those remarks live when he takes the stage at least, just because he's obviously sort of the man of the moment, given how difficult some of the primary process has been already and how much heat he has been bearing. I am joined here in New York by some of my esteemed colleagues. Jason Johnson is politics editor at The Root. Claire McCaskill, former U.S. Senator from the great state of Missouri. My colleague and friend Joy Reid, the host of AM Joy. And Robert Gibbs, former White House press secretary under President Obama. It is great to have you all here tonight. It's very exciting.
Yes.
First of all, 6 people on the debate stage. Second of all, a new guy. Obviously, everybody is going to be craning their necks and try to figure out the Bloomberg factor here. But all of these candidates have a ton riding on what happens tonight, don't they, Claire?
Oh, yeah. And it really, Bloomberg is going to get incoming. It's going to happen. There are going to be massive swings taken at him. And the issue will be, how does he respond to those swings?
He has to know it's coming.
He does.
Preparation is presumably
you know,
half the
this
battle,
is a guy who, you know, is famous for being prickly when people criticize him. Will he take the criticisms and pivot and punch back with something positive in his record? Or will he dig in? And, I mean, we have a guy in the White House that's no fun to hang out with. I think it's going to be hard for Bloomberg, if he gets prickly, to really sell himself and connect with the American people. So there's a lot of pressure on Mike Bloomberg tonight,
Joy,
and the others.
If you were advising Mike Bloomberg about how to prepare for tonight, I mean, obviously, everybody in America knows that he's running for president because he's buried each one of us individually in our own personal ads.
Yes.
I mean, approaching $500 million in ads already when only 2 states have run, and he didn't compete in either of them.
Yeah.
So he has to know that that kind of incoming is coming, like Claire's describing. But how do you prepare? How do you, what's his best showing?
Well, I mean, if you wanted to, like, conspiracy theorize, you'd almost think that he was dumping all the oppa on himself over the last couple of weeks because he's been preparing for it by having to respond almost every day to another new revelation. So he's actually been prepping in public. And I think a lot of his surrogates, even on, you know, on our shows, have been coming on and prepping to respond. And I think for Michael Bloomberg, his focus needs to be 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Because the case that Michael Bloomberg is making is not that he's the best Democrat, is not that he's the most appropriate person as a human being, that not that he's the nicest guy, but that he can take out Donald Trump. And so I think as long as he is owning whatever his problems are and apologizing when he needs to and redirecting it at Donald Trump, then I think that that helps him. And he has to also remember that I think the biggest incoming from him is not so much Bernie Sanders, who we kind of know what he's going to say. It's Elizabeth Warren. Because for Elizabeth Warren, there is nothing better for her campaign and no better lifeline than to have the billionaire, the biggest billionaire on the block, right there on the stage with her.
Yeah,
she needs to
and
come
to that point, I mean, Jason, I'll put this to you. It seems like, you know, Bloomberg has a few different options in terms of how he's going to make the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue argument. I mean, he could just run as the human embodiment of a lot of money.
Yes.
Say, you don't have to like anything about me other than the number of zeros.
I believe the path is littered with $1,000 bills.
Yes.
That's actually his direct path
you
to
may
the
not
White
like
House.
anything about me, but I, based on my money alone, can beat him and therefore disregard anything else about me. Or on the debate stage, he can say, yeah, I got a lot of money, but the reason that it's going to help me beat him is because the American people will prefer me in the voting booth.
They will prefer me. I'm the less toxic version of Donald Trump. I've actually been watching Mike Bloomberg's debates in 2009 with Thompson, and a couple things came across. Yes, it's 10 years ago, but it's the only data we can really sort of go from. Number one, it's not just that he's prickly. He's not particularly warm, but this guy can bury you with numbers. He can explain a lot of different things very well about what he's done. He can make it short. He can make it pithy. And also, he's very good at throwing numbers at you that sort of counter the criticisms you have for him. They talked about, hey, what are you doing about working class people? What are you doing about poor people? And he's like, well, this is what the middle class is, and this is what the middle class numbers are, et cetera, et cetera. So I wonder if we're going to see smart Bloomberg who comes out and says, look, this is what I've done. This is what I've accomplished. By the way, I have a $1,000 bill for everybody. Look under your seat, right? And then I will be better than Donald Trump. And I also think he's been the only person so far, we've only seen it online, he's the only person to bruise Bernie Sanders. Everybody else has stayed away from Bernie. If he can land a punch against Bernie Sanders, that's not about philosophy, but how Bernie Sanders runs his campaign, about his staff and their behavior, that could be a successful night for Bloomberg.
Robert Gibbs, what are you watching for tonight?
Well, a couple of things. I think New Hampshire taught us how important these debates are, right? The exit polls showed that 51% of voters said that the debate they watched was either the most important part of how they made their decision or an important part. Right? And we know most of these voters are making their decisions late. Over half, or 48%, almost half, decided in those last few days. This is the last big moment before Nevada, and it is one of the last big moments before Super Tuesday. They may not be counting the votes on Saturday in Nevada. They're voting tonight in California. I would say
it's a live shot of Vice President Biden arriving as we're talking. Go on.
And to your point, I think the question is, does Bloomberg walk off the stage tonight as a billionaire or as an accomplished mayor of the largest city in New York that made progress on education, the environment, and the middle class?
Who then has to engage with his critics about whether or not his record is something that the Democratic electorate isn't going to like.
Absolutely. But if he is caricatured and painted into one corner as just being the rich guy in the field, then I think he'll have not had a very good night.
The other rich guy in the field, it should be noted, Tom Steyer, who's polling in double digits in Nevada, did not meet DNC criteria to be on the stage tonight. And given that he's spent $14 million plus in that state, and it has sort of paid off for him in the polls, it's sort of a weird billionaire.
One other
night.
quick thing I would say is these candidates can't lose sight of Bernie Sanders. If they all turn their fire on Bloomberg, and they may want to, let's color his candidacy before it gets completely out of our control. But if they leave Bernie Sanders to win Nevada,
to do well in South Carolina, to do really well on Super Tuesday, you're going to create a delegate lead, maybe not a majority, but a plurality that is exceedingly hard to catch.
And that gets you all the way to the convention before
Absolutely.
you know it. All right, we got more to come as we approach tonight's Democratic debate here on MSNBC. We're going to be hearing live from the stage in just a moment. Stay with us.
It's just a quarter, right? But what if Acorns automatically saved that quarter every time you bought coffee for a month? What about a year? 10 years? And what about the change from food, movies, parking, gas? What about the change from everything you buy? And what if Acorns invested it all in the market where it can grow through the power of compound returns? What if you didn't have to change your life to change your life? Then it's not just a quarter, is it?
The world's newest ocean cruise line is yet again a world's best. Viking's elegant ships deliver a superb, inclusive experience with enriching shore excursions, alternative dining, all-veranda staterooms, Wi-Fi, and much more. We're very proud to have been named a world's best 4 years in a row by Travel and Leisure readers. Learn more at vikingcruises.com.
You're nervous, but I promise you, they haven't been through what we've been through. They don't know what it's like to get knocked down, to have to get back up again. They don't know what it is to fight. Who are we?
Ben Affleck, The Way Back, rated R. Only in theaters March 6th.
I am totally blind. And Non-24 can make me show up too early or too late, or make me feel like I'm not really there. Talk to your doctor and call 844-234-2424.
Whether your beauty routine is 3 steps or 57, make Nature's Bounty Hair, Skin, and Nails Step 1. It's the #1 brand uniquely formulated for silky hair, glowing skin, and healthy nails. Nature's Bounty, because you're better off healthy.
Want amazing looking eyes? Try Lumify, the one-of-a-kind eye drops that Allure magazine said could be a game changer. Lumify dramatically reduces redness to help your eyes look whiter and brighter for up to 8 hours. With just 1 drop. Lumify, you won't believe your eyes.
A sommelier searches for the perfect wine. But I hear a different calling, the call of a schmear of cream cheese. For I am a sommelier. I practice my craft at Philadelphia. Here, we use only the freshest milk. That one, go, go! And the finest ingredients. What is this? Until perfection is achieved. He's ready. Schmears! Philadelphia, schmear perfection.
Burn cleaner and get paid. Replace your old dirty wood-burning stove, insert or open hearth fireplace, and get up to $3,000 in incentives. Visit valleyair.org/burn-cleaner for more information.
Everyone uses their phone differently. That's why Xfinity Mobile lets you design your own data. You can share 1, 3, or 10 gigs of data between lines. Mix in lines of unlimited and switch it up at any time. All with millions of secure Wi-Fi hotspots and the best LTE everywhere else. It's a different kind of wireless network designed to save you money. Switch and save up to $400 a year on your wireless bill. And save even more when you say, bring my own phone into your voice remote. That's simple, easy, awesome. Click, call, or visit a store today.
Burn cleaner and get paid. Switching your wood-burning device will help improve the Valley's air quality, heat your home more efficiently, and give you up to $3,000 in incentives. Visit valleyair.org/burn-cleaner for more information.
Welcome back to our coverage of the Democratic candidates debate tonight. We are keeping an eye on the stage. Over the next few minutes, we are expecting Nevada power broker, former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid to speak. We're expecting the chairman of the Democratic Party, Tom Perez, to speak. We're expecting Lester Holt to introduce all of the candidates. We're expecting to see all the candidates at their podiums. I want to bring into the conversation now Maria Urbina. She's National Political Director for the Indivisible Project. She's also a former vice president at Voto Latino, and she worked as an advisor to former Democratic Senate Leader Harry Reid. Maria, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you with us tonight.
great to be with you, Rachel.
So as the eyes of the nation turn toward Nevada and toward this pretty wild Democratic candidates field, what do you think people should be looking for? People who aren't necessarily familiar with the dynamics inside the state, with how it's going to be different in Nevada to have so much more of a diverse electorate than we've seen in the first two contests this far. What should we have our eyes open for tonight?
Well, the reason that it's important that we pay attention to Nevada is because it actually helps deepen the theory of winning for a lot of these candidates who need a base that's multiracial. And so folks who are competing here, candidates who are competing here, not only need to have a really strong working class coalition, they need to have a strong multiracial coalition. The Latinx community here is 30% of the state, and so it's very sizable. It's increasingly well organized. And in addition to that, for example, for the first time ever, we're seeing preference cards printed in Tagalog. That's because the AAPI and Filipino community is also really well organized here. So it's just a state that where you can really penetrate. Investments in program could really reach a lot of voters.
Maria, let me
really use that to... Oh, yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt you for just a second.
Oh,
Your
my
former
old
boss, Harry Reid, is taking the stage. I want to make sure we get his remarks. We'll be right back with you.
Great.
Senator Reid getting a standing ovation as he comes out.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Since our state was formed in 1864, we've not had a governor that has been as successful during his first term working with the legislature as Steve Sisolak. What he's been able to do with giving state employees the right to organize, what he's done with recognizing early on that climate's a problem in America today, it's a problem here in Nevada, and what he's done with the environment is significant, and I'm proud of him, what he's done. A lot of people talk about doing things about guns. He did it. But understand, we talk about empowering women. What's happened in Nevada is just the opposite. Women have empowered us. We hear, and you can't say it often enough, what we have in Nevada is amazing. Our congressional delegation, majorities women. Our state legislature, the Assembly and the Senate, majority women. Our Supreme Court, majority women. Now, just a little vignette here. When I came to the United States Senate, we had one woman, Barbara Mikulski. And over the years, as women started coming into the Senate, I can speak from experience. Every time we got another woman in the Senate got better. We saw the debacle in Iowa. We saw what happened in New Hampshire. Iowa and New Hampshire do not represent the makeup of the United States. And that's why pundits are saying, and I'm saying, that we should have Nevada as the first state to vote. Nevada is a state where we've shown that state parties are meaningful. We have the best state party organization in the entire country. It didn't happen overnight. We've had many people to work to make it a good party. Appreciate Chairman McCurdy, what he's been doing. I doubt if she's here tonight, she's probably taking care of her children, doing a lot of things. I kept her real busy today. But no one has had a better impact in the state party development in Nevada than a woman by the name of Rebecca Lamb. Nevada is a state that is representative of the country. It's diverse. It's heavily unionized. It's a state where everyone needs to recognize that tourism is a number 1, 2, or 3 economic driver in any state. And that's why when people come here, they need to talk about tourism because it is important. It's important to Nevada and the rest of the country. Well, what are we going to do? The main thing we're going to do is thump Trump. Thank you very much.
Nevada Senator Harry Reid getting a standing ovation in the room, both at his arrival and now at his departure. A legend in Democratic politics broadly, but a man who made the Democratic Party what it is in Nevada and had an incredible record. Claire McCaskill, I can't help but think that was a little shout out to you. Every woman added to the Senate made the Senate a little better.
You know, Harry, this was not the most telegenic guy in the Senate, right? Yeah. He is so blunt. He is so, it is so refreshing to remember the meetings with Harry when you would think you were just getting rolling and explaining something, and he'd be like, I'm done. Yeah. It was like the thump Trump is this classic Harry Reid.
And then he's out.
And I will give Harry credit. He was nervous about women because he had not always had a record that was impeccable from a perspective of reproductive freedom. Mm-hmm. And as a result, he was always reaching out to the women, always pulling the women in his office, always empowering the women of the Senate to take on more responsibility. And clearly, it still means a lot to him. And that's a good message to hear tonight as this debate begins.
Let me bring Maria Urbina back into this conversation as a female former staffer to Senator Reid. Maria, I'm sorry I had to interrupt you there, but I figured you wouldn't mind because that is your former boss. Senator Reid, we're just talking here in the panel, has been you almost can't overstate how effective he has been within the state at making it possible for Democrats to win there and for making such an impressive Democratic operation in that state, right?
That's right. And the senator is correct in saying that Senator Reid really invests in the leadership of women. When I think about my time in his Senate office, when I think about my time on the campaign in 2010, it's largely women who are running most of his operations, and it's women that he looks to oftentimes. Another piece that folks don't know in sort of drawing why Nevada is important, when Senator Reid ran in 2010, everyone said he was out of here. He was a dead man walking. And he squarely won that race, and you can look it up, because Latinos and immigrants in this state really showed up. And so the reason Nevada is important, the reason it matters, is that that translated to how Senator Reid governed. It translated to how he led the Senate. And if you talk to many immigrant rights organizations, they will remember the work that Senator Reid did. And it always, you know, it wasn't always perfect, but it stayed with him when he saw communities organize and show up in these elections. And so for Nevada to be on display tonight, to have these candidates competing in a place where these issues are so resonant, the rest of the country gets to talk about how can we expect these candidates to govern as they look forward after Trump.
Maria Urbina, National Political Director for the Indivisible Project. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us tonight. We're excited to have you here. Thanks a lot. I will say we're going to be, I think, turning around in just a second, go back to the stage. We're about to hear from Tom Perez, who is the national chairman of the Democratic Party. Robert, let me go back to you on this issue about organizing and the effectiveness of the party apparatus. Obviously, we're all, we're a little worried about how the party is going to operate the actual caucuses in terms of turning around results and the logistics. Well, now let me cut myself off here because Tom Perez is coming out of the stage. I'll get back to you. I'm sorry. I apologize. Tom Perez, chairman of the Democratic Party.
One of the most impactful senators in American history, Senator Harry Reid. Thank you for what you've done. Senator Reid, you've got tenacity. You know, Nevada is called the battle-born state for a reason. You've got tenacity, and that's why I'm so confident that you are going to help us win this battle against Donald Trump. Because as you know, Democrats had incredible success here in 2008, as people have outlined. Steve Sisolak, your governor, one of the most remarkable people I know. We sent Dean Heller packing, and you know what? That's a lesson for every Republican out there. If you're coming after people's health care, we're coming at you for your job. In 2016, it was Joe Heck. And you know what? The Nevadans said, heck no. In 2018, it was Dean Heller, and Nevadans said, hell no. And you know what? Let's give it up for the two women who replaced them, Senator Rosen, Senator Cortez Masto. Let's give it up for Congresswoman Titus, Congresswoman Lee, Congressman Horsford. Folks, you got a great bench. You got a great team. And these victories happened because of one simple word: organize. The Nevada Democratic Party and countless volunteers and partners organized and lifted up diverse communities across every inch of this state. From our Native American and Filipino brothers and sisters to our African American and Latinx brothers and sisters, Nevada is truly a microcosm of America. And that's exactly how we're going to win again in November. This president may have his Twitter accounts, but we got our clipboards, and we got our organizers, and we're organizing to protect our health care. We're organizing to protect the right to form a union. We're organizing to protect a woman's right to control her own body. We're organizing to protect immigrants. We're organizing to combat climate change. We're organizing right here in Las Vegas, the site of the worst mass shooting in American history, so that we can take the fight to the NRA and end gun violence once and for all, and we will do that. As others have mentioned, we're already at 70,000 early voters here. And to give you some perspective, in 2016, 84,000 people turned out in total on caucus day. And folks, we're still 3 days out from caucus day, and this comes on the heels of record-breaking turnout a week ago in New Hampshire. So we're making sure that more people can participate in our democracy. Nevadans can register on the same day. Caucus materials, as the chair pointed out, in English, Spanish, and Tagalog. Democrats are organizing around the values of the American people. And every single one of our candidates shares those values. And every single one of those candidates would make a far better president than President Trump. And the American people think so too. The latest Quinnipiac poll from a week ago and a Washington Post poll from today shows that every single candidate on this stage would defeat Donald Trump in a head-to-head matchup, folks. That's why, folks, that's why no matter who makes it to the mountaintop, we will unite behind our eventual nominee. The Democratic Party is a family. Families often have spirited discussions. Come to my house at Thanksgiving. But you know what, folks? That's healthy. And when we take on Donald Trump, we know we will come together and do it together, because our unity is indeed our greatest strength and his worst nightmare. And now, make no mistake about it, though, this battle won't be easy. But whenever I feel myself getting tired or cynical, I think of all the people across this great state and this great country who are counting on us to succeed. I think about the workers I met in casino kitchens who are struggling to put food on the table for their families. I think about the homeowners that I met here in Nevada whose homes were foreclosed because predatory lenders made Nevada a foreclosure haven in America. Shame on them. I think about children like 9-year-old Adelida Reynoso, who was separated from her mother, Maria, at the border 2.5 years ago because of the bankrupt policies of this president. And she talks to her mom on FaceTime. She should be hugging her mom. And the first words she learned in English were, "They separated us. She deserves a better America." I think about the people with pre-existing conditions who might lose their health care if Republicans get their way. I think about the parents who have to choose between paying rent and paying for insulin. I think about the seniors and people with disabilities who will be harmed by Trump's threats to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. I think about every dreamer still striving for that same promise of opportunity that brought my parents to this country so many years ago. Together we will build the future they deserve, and we will do it together. And if you want to join this fight, let's join it together. Text UNIFY to 43367. UNIFY 43367. Adelante, vamos a ganar. Nuestro voto es nuestra voz. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much.
Democratic Party Chairman Tom Perez, maybe as fired up as I've ever seen him, getting the crowd going tonight as we head towards the starting moments of tonight's Democratic candidates debate. That's right after this break. Stay with us.
And they found themselves in a magical land And then what happened? Where's our family from?
Was he my age?
So Nan and Pops eloped?
And then what happened, Daddy?
Well, before us, there were your great-great-great-grandparents.
Turn questions you've always had into stories you can't wait to share with Ancestry.
Every American deserves access to affordable, high-quality health care.
But one-size-fits-all government health insurance systems like Medicare for All, Medicare Buy-in, and the public option do the opposite.
American families would face higher taxes, longer wait times, and lower quality care.
They take choice and control away from patients and give it to politicians.
We can't afford a one-size-fits-all system.
Let's build on what's working and fix what's broken, not start over.
A great president and an effective mayor, leadership that makes a difference.
He's been a leader throughout the country for the past 12 years. Mr. Michael Bloomberg is here.
Together, they work to combat gun violence and again to improve education for every child.
I want to thank the mayor of this great city, Mayor Bloomberg, for his extraordinary leadership. I share your determination to bring this country together to finally make progress for the American people.
I'm Mike Bloomberg, and I approve this message.
If you looked at America like a bird, and that was all you knew, would you really understand it with just that point of view? We've got a different way to look at it from right here on the ground. We don't just see United States, we see United Towns. We're grateful for what you bring, and all the sparks you've shown, and the thousands of towns that we get to call home.
When our voices go on record, what will we say? We all want different things. We all dream different dreams. But that's what makes us, us. There's power in deciding for ourselves, even if we don't agree. Because this isn't really about finding common ground. It's about finding our footing on uncommon ground and being open to standing there together.
As the candidates prepare to take the stage, let's go back one last time to Steve Kornacki. Steve, looking at the polling picture heading into tonight, obviously we're thinking about Nevada and about the overall state of the race. Bernie Sanders and his campaign feel exceedingly confident about their chances in Nevada.
Yeah, I mean, take a look here nationally. This is our new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll just out in the last day. Bernie Sanders off that New Hampshire win, a double-digit lead nationally. And really what you see beneath Sanders here is just a lot of flux. You see Biden, who was running close to 30% pretty much for the entire campaign. That's been slashed in half because of those two poor performances he's turned in. Bloomberg, you see, has surged right into contention there for that number 2 spot. You see Warren, Buttigieg, and Klobuchar both, got that great news out of New Hampshire just in terms of being so competitive there, but neither one of them surging to compete with Sanders yet, so some question marks there for them. I think what's interesting, though, Bloomberg will be on the stage tonight. So many questions about him. You see what he's done nationally. Look where he's been spending the money, where he's had the airwaves to himself in some cases. These are some Super Tuesday state polls that have come out in the last day. Bloomberg tied for the lead in North Carolina. This one's actually about a week old in Arkansas, but Bloomberg ahead in Arkansas, actually. Oklahoma, this one came out yesterday. Bloomberg up 6 there. However, California, biggest prize on Super Tuesday. Sanders, again, his campaign talking about an advantage they think they have with Hispanic voters. That could be a big reason for Sanders' lead there in California. But Bloomberg, you see that spending has put him in contention in a bunch of these Super Tuesday states. I think this one last poll item I can show you, though, is key, though. In our NBC Wall Street Journal poll, we asked voters, Democratic voters, if it's just Sanders and Bloomberg, and you got to choose right now, Sanders 57, Bloomberg 37. So that theory right now of Bloomberg getting the one-on-one and winning, not yet.
I'm also like just imagining sociologically the number of people who don't fit into that, because 57 plus 37 is not 100. There are some people in America who are like, yeah, between Bernie Sanders and Mike Bloomberg, I can't decide. Like, that's just hard to believe, you know what I mean? Like, among all the 2 people in the world, you'd think that would be a polarizing choice. We believe the candidates are about to get announced here in just a moment, and we'll pause when that happens to see them come out onto the stage. You see Senator Klobuchar there, Mayor Buttigieg. Let's watch this. Senator Amy Klobuchar, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, former Vice President Joe Biden, Senator Bernie Sanders, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg. These 6 contenders who are about to take their positions at the podium tonight. This is the first time we've seen Mayor Bloomberg on the stage at all. The polling questions around Bloomberg are big black boxes because they reflect the amazing amount of money that he has spent, but this will be the first time he competes in the flesh with these other contenders. Robert Gibbs, let me ask you about the speech that we just heard from the Democratic Party chairman, Tom Perez. Organize, 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 talking about that being the secret to the success of the Democratic Party in terms of lining up a Democratic congressional delegation in that state. Right. But he's saying that's also the key to the Democrats winning in 2020. How do you assess the organizing capability of the Democratic Party right now?
Well, let's hope that they're counting votes on Saturday and not into next week.
How
and I
would
think that will give us some indication. But look, if you look at the campaigns that Harry Reid
after
ran,
Dyer's second in command was convicted of felony drug distribution,
making sure you identify who you need to get out and get them out quickly. Mark them off as having voted. And look, this is a great opportunity for the campaigns to hone their messaging and their operations, because as we've talked about this increase in Hispanic vote that is happening now that we haven't seen in 2 90-plus white states, understand too, the 2 biggest prizes on Super Tuesday, California and Texas, are going to have electorates in excess of 30% that are Hispanic. And so understanding how to talk to, energize, activate, and get those voters to the polls is a huge task, Herculean for these candidates, and it's a great proving ground because, as both Harry Reid emphasized, it looks a lot more like America than the first 2 states.
And the Sanders campaign very confident with their standing with voters of color. Do any of you see any particular skill, any particular deftness when it comes to any of these candidates who are on the stage tonight in terms of speaking to Latino and African-American voters?
No,
any
not
of
at
them?
all. No, none.
Are you sure?
No. I want to make it abundantly clear, not at all under any circumstances are any of them really good, and most of them have excruciatingly problematic records on certain issues that have to deal with black voters. But I would say that Sanders' success with Latinos is in large part because the Latino population is also very young. And a lot of the voting population is young, and he's very popular with young people.
Well, and you've also got a really strong generational divide within African-American voters that is not so much true with Latino voters. Where older African-American voters, it's not about passion, it's about beating Donald Trump. But for younger Black and Latino voters, Sanders does represent a real movement to them. And it is genuine. It's just that it seems to be a bit age limited. So the question for him is, can he expand this really, passionate, young, multiracial base upward in age to the people who actually are reliable
Particularly
voters.
Given that even, with the varying turnout numbers that we've seen, it's an older electorate that is turning out.
Right.
We have not seen a spike in young turnout. Claire, in terms of thinking about how these candidates are looking at each other and sizing each other up tonight, is there a way that any of them can succeed without destroying one of the other one? Is there a way that you've seen Senator Warren try to do that a few times, saying, I'm not going to go after X, Y, or Z. I'm instead going to talk about something we'd all be better at. You saw Tom Steyer do that a few times.
Yeah, you see Elizabeth, and Elizabeth was in the progressive lane, but then she tried to start to get to the middle a little bit and kind of got stuck. And so you've got Bernie over here with the progressive wing, the younger progressive wing, kind of locked down. And everyone else is splitting up everything else. So the irony is they need to get along and coalesce unless Bernie's going to be the nominee. I mean, that's kind of the option here, one or the other. And so I think politics is going to play out like it always does. Whoever's ahead is going to get some incoming. And I think Bloomberg is going to get it because it's his first time out and they want to kill him now. And I think Bernie will get a little incoming tonight.
But this is a huge, huge moment. This really is a moment where each of these campaigns has to say, I have to make my momentum tonight.
Yes.
Because let's be clear.
Every single one of them.
Let's be clear. A series of third-place finishes isn't going to make you the nominee. No. But let's be clear. Neither is a series of second-place finishes.
Yes. Clearly.
Right? There is one medal winner in this whole thing.
That's right.
And these campaigns each have to go in here with a strategy. How am I going to come out tonight, gaining that momentum, capturing that undecided vote, taking that into South Carolina and on to Super Tuesday, it's a big, big moment.
And Super Tuesday is a lot different this year for a very big reason. It's called California.
Right.
And California moving into Super Tuesday
California and Texas
everything.
being on the same day is
huge.
unimaginable.
It's a third of all the delegates.
I'd love to see a Texas poll, because that also is delegate rich and very, very important. High Latina population.
But that California poll, now that's not how California is going to end up, but you have to be at 15% to be viable.
That's right.
If that poll were the outcome, Bernie Sanders would walk away with 416 pledged delegates that night. Because nobody else is at 15%.
And then game over.
It's game over. That's, again, there's campaigns tonight that are looking at both sides of this. They can't let Bernie go. They can't let Bloomberg go.
And I think the other thing that's important tonight is I still think these people have an opportunity to sort of sell themselves to the public. I don't buy this narrative that there's this liberal wing and there's this moderate wing. Mike Bloomberg is not a moderate. He's a conservative Democrat now. And I don't think most people really believe he's
Rockefeller Republican.
Or a Rockefeller Republican until 15 minutes ago. I think the people who support Mayor Pete, they actually support Mayor Pete. It's not just because they're unhappy with Biden. The people who support Elizabeth Warren, they really still like her. So these people are all working from actual basis of support. No one has become the anti-Bernie candidate yet, and I don't think they should give up and just say, I'm the moderate choice yet. They've still got a group of people passionate about them that they can work with.
Ultimately, what they've all got to be is the anti-Trump candidate.
Right.
And I will say, it is striking to see, we're going to see a fight tonight over, whose policy that is roughly in agreement with everybody else's policy is more appropriately means tested to the third decade, Meanwhile, Donald Trump is dismantling the rule of law. And so you will see, that'll also be a contest tonight. And I think Bloomberg has helped focus the field on this in terms of who can turn their fire toward Trump in a way that is going to move Democratic voters.
And are we going to see a candidate that shows empathy, decency, inspiration, right? Bill Clinton and Barack Obama inspired. They need a candidate to get out of the seats for.
The Democratic candidates debate in Las Vegas begins right now.
Let us create the political revolution this country needs.
The stakes could not be higher. We cannot afford to miss the mark or to miss this moment.
I will bring this country together instead of tearing it apart.
I can't do it alone. I need your help to climb that mountain. And together we're going to beat Donald Trump.
2020 is our time to change who makes the rules.
I am running to restore honor to our government and build a country that we can be proud of.
From NBC News, the Democratic presidential debate, live from Las Vegas, Nevada.
To Las Vegas. Everything is on the line tonight. We're just 3 days before the critical Nevada caucuses. Here with me on the stage tonight, NBC News political director and moderator of Meet the Press, Chuck Todd. And NBC News chief White House correspondent and MSNBC anchor, Hallie Jackson. Also joining us is Telemundo senior correspondent Vanessa Ock. And editor of the Nevada Independent, John Ralston, who has covered Nevada politics for more than 3 decades. The rules are this tonight. Candidates will get a minute 15 to answer each question and 45 seconds for follow-up. Now that the stage is narrowed to 6 candidates, we encourage each of you to directly engage with each other on the issues. So let's get to our first question. Since the last time you all shared the stage, Senator Sanders, a self-described Democratic socialist, has surged into the lead nationally in the Democratic race. And there's a new person on the stage tonight, Mayor Michael Bloomberg, a former Republican who spent millions of his own dollars to run in this race. What hasn't changed, a majority of Democratic voters still say their top priority is beating President Trump. Senator Sanders, the first question to you. Mayor Bloomberg is pitching himself as a centrist who says he's best positioned to win in November. Why is your revolution a better bet?
In order to beat Donald Trump, we're going to need the largest voter turnout in the history of the United States. Mr. Bloomberg had policies in New York City of stop and frisk, which went after African-American and Latino people in an outrageous way. That is not a way you're going to grow voter turnout. What our movement is about is bringing working class people together, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, around an agenda that works for all of us and not just the billionaire class. And that agenda says that maybe, just maybe, we should join the rest of the industrialized world, guarantee health care to all people as a human right, raise that minimum wage to a living wage of $15 an hour, and have the guts to take on the fossil fuel industry, because their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet and the need to combat climate change. Those are some of the reasons we have the strongest campaign to defeat Donald Trump.
So Mayor Bloomberg, can Senator Sanders beat President Trump, and how do you want to respond to what else he said?
I don't think there's any chance of the senator beating President Trump. You don't start out by saying, I've got 160 million people, I'm going to take away the insurance plan that they love. That's just not a ways that you go and start building the coalition that the Sanders camp thinks that they can do. I don't think there's any chance whatsoever. And if he goes and is the candidate, we will have Donald Trump for another 4 years, and we can't stand that.
So I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to win if we have a nominee who has a history of hiding his tax returns, of harassing women, and of supporting racist policies like redlining and stop and frisk. Look, I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is, but understand this. Democrats take a huge risk if we just substitute one arrogant billionaire for another. This country has worked for the rich for a long time and left everyone else in the dirt. It is time to have a president who will be on the side of working families and be willing to get out there and fight for them. That is why I am in this race, and that is how I will beat Donald Trump.
Senator Klobuchar, what do you think the path is from this stage to the White House? What works?
I think the path is a high voter turnout. I'm the one on this stage that had the highest voter turnout of any state in the country when I led the ticket, as well as bringing in rural and suburban voters. And I've done that as well. And I'm the only one with the receipts to have done that in Republican congressional districts over and over again. But I want to say this, I actually welcomed Mayor Bloomberg to the stage. I thought that he shouldn't be hiding behind his TV ads, and so I was all ready for this big day. And then I looked at the memo from his campaign staff this morning, and it said that he actually thought that 3 of us should get out of the way. That is what his campaign said, because we should pave the way for him to become the nominee. You know, I have been told as a woman, as someone that maybe no one thought was still going to be standing up on this stage, but I am because of pure grit and because of the people out there. I've been told many times to wait my turn and to step aside. And I'm not going to do that now, and I'm not going to do that because a campaign memo from Mayor Bloomberg said this morning that the only way that we get a nominee is if we step aside for him. I think we need something different than Donald Trump. I don't think you look at Donald Trump and say we need someone richer in the White House.
Thank you. Mayor Bloomberg, is a lot for you to respond to there, so here's your opportunity.
I think we have 2 questions to face tonight. One is, who can beat Donald Trump? And number 2, who can do the job if they get into the White House? And I would argue that I am the candidate that can do exactly both of those things. I'm a New Yorker. I know how to take on an arrogant con man like Donald Trump that comes from New York. I'm a mayor. I was a mayor. I know how to run a complicated city, the biggest, most diverse city in this country. I'm a manager. I knew what to do after 9/11 and brought the city back stronger than ever. And I'm a philanthropist who didn't inherit his money, but made his money. And I'm spending that money to get rid of Donald Trump, the worst president we have ever had. And if I can get that done, it will be a great contribution to America and to my kids.
Vice President Biden, will let you weigh in here.
In terms of who can beat Donald Trump, NBC did a poll yesterday. It says Joe Biden is best equipped to beat Donald Trump. That's what your poll said. And it said that I can beat him in those toss-up states, too, those states we have to win. I'm ahead by 8 points across the board. So in terms of being able to beat Donald Trump, I'm better positioned, according to your poll, than anybody else to beat Donald Trump. Number one. Number two, the mayor makes an interesting point. The mayor says that he has a great record, that he's done these wonderful things. Well, the fact of the matter is he has not managed his city very, very well when he was there. He didn't get a whole lot done. He had stop and frisk, throwing close to 5 million young black men up against the wall. And when we came along in our administration, President Obama, and said we're going to send in a moderator a mediator to stop it, he said that's unnecessary. So we're going to get a chance to talk about the mayor's record. But in terms of who is best prepared to beat Donald Trump, look at your poll and what it says.
Mayor Buttigieg, you'd like to weigh in?
Yes, we've got to wake up as a party. We could wake up 2 weeks from today, the day after Super Tuesday, and the only candidates left standing will be Bernie Sanders and Mike Bloomberg, the two most polarizing figures on this stage. And most Americans don't see where they fit if they've got to choose between a socialist who thinks that capitalism is the root of all evil and a billionaire who thinks that money ought to be the root of all power. Let's put forward somebody who actually lives and works in a middle-class neighborhood in an industrial Midwestern city. Let's put forward somebody who's actually a Democrat. Look, we shouldn't have to choose between one candidate who wants to burn this party down and another candidate who wants to buy this party out. Look, we can do better.
Senator Sanders, are you polarizing?
If speaking to the needs and the pain of a long-neglected working class is polarizing, I think you got the wrong word. What we are trying finally to do is to give a voice to people who, after 45 years of work, are not making a nickel more than they did 45 years ago. We are giving a voice to people who are saying we are sick and tired of billionaires like Mr. Bloomberg seeing huge expansions of their wealth while 500,000 people sleep out on the street tonight. And that's so what we are saying, Pete, is maybe it's a time for the working class of this country to have a little bit of power in Washington rather than your billionaire campaign contributors.
All right, look, first of all,
I know.
Look, my campaign is fueled by hundreds of thousands of contributors.
Including 26 billionaires.
Among the hundreds of thousands of contributors. And look, we've got to unite this country to deal with these issues. You're not the only one who cares about the working class. Most Americans believe we need to empower workers. As a matter of fact, you're the one who is at war with the culinary union right here in Las Vegas. We
have more union support than you have ever dreamed of. We have the support of unions all across this country.
But the vision I'm putting forward has the support of the American people. Really? We can actually deliver health care without taking it away from anyone. We can actually empower workers and lift wages without further polarizing this country. And we can build a movement without having legions of our supporters online and in person.
All right, candidates, thank you.
I think it is
Democratic figures and union leaders alike.
Senator Warren, I have a question for you. On Sunday, on Meet the Press, Vice President Biden accused Senator Sanders' supporters of bullying union leaders here with, quote, vicious, malicious, misogynistic things. You said Democrats cannot build an inclusive party on a foundation of hate. Are Senator Sanders and his supporters making it harder for Democrats to unify in November?
Look, I have said many times before, we are all responsible for our supporters, and we need to step up. That's what leadership is all about. But the way we are going to lead this country and beat Donald Trump is going to be with a candidate who has rock-solid values and who actually gets something done. When Mayor Bloomberg was busy blaming African Americans and Latinos for the housing crash of 2008, I was right here in Las Vegas, literally just a few blocks down the street, holding hearings on the banks that were taking away homes from millions of families. That's when I met Mr. Estrada, one of your neighbors. He came in to testify, and he said he thought he'd done everything right with Wells Fargo. But what had happened? They took away his house in a matter of weeks. This man stood there and cried while he talked about what it was like to tell his 2 little daughters that they might not be in their elementary school, that they might be living out of their van. I spent the next years making sure that would never happen again. Wall Street fought us every inch of the way on a consumer agency. They lost, and I won. We need a candidate with unshakable values and a candidate who can actually get something done for working people.
Thank you, Senator.
That's why I'm in this race,
Senator,
and that's
thank
how
you.
I'll beat Donald Trump.
Senator Sanders.
We have over 10.6 million people on Twitter, and 99.9% of them are decent human beings, are working people, are people who believe in justice, compassion, and love. And if there are a few people who make ugly remarks, who attack trade union leaders, I disown those people. They are not part of our movement. But let me also say, what I hope my friends up here will agree with, is that if you look at the Wild West of the internet, talk to some of the African-American women on my campaign, talk to Senator Nina Turner, talk to others, and find the vicious, racist, sexist attacks that are coming their way as well. So I would hope that all of us understand that we should do everything we possibly can to end the viciousness and ugliness on the internet. Our campaign is about issues. It's about fighting for the working families and the middle class. It is not about vicious attacks on other people.
Senator, when you say that you disown these attacks and you didn't personally direct them, I believe you.
Well, thank you.
But at a certain point, you got to ask yourself, why did this pattern arise? Why is it especially the case among your supporters?
I don't think it is especially the case, by the way.
That's just not true. Look,
well,
people know.
Pete, if you want to talk to some of the women on my campaign, what you will see is the most ugly, sexist, racist attacks that are, I won't even describe them here, they're so disgusting. And let me say something else about this, not being too paranoid. All of us remember 2016. And what we remember is efforts by Russians and others to try to interfere in our election and divide us up. I'm not saying that's happening, but it would not shock me. I saw some of those tweets regarding the Culinary Workers Union. I have a 30-year, 100% pro-union voting record. Do you think I would support, or anybody supports me, would be attacking union leaders? It's not thinkable.
But leadership is about what you draw out of people. It's about how you inspire people to act. And right now we're in this toxic political environment. Leadership isn't just about policy. I think, at least in broad terms, we're largely pulling in the same direction on policy. But leadership is also about how you motivate people to treat other people. And I think you have to accept some responsibility and ask yourself what it is about your campaign in particular that seems to be motivating this behavior more than others. Because in order to turn the page on the Trump era, we're going to need a president, not just a candidate who can win, but a president who can move us forward.
Stop sexism on the internet. We could nominate a woman for candidate for President of the United States. I think that might go a long way if we showed our stuff as a party. And the other thing I want to talk about is really what is at the core of this issue between Senator Sanders and the Culinary Union. And that is this. These are hardworking people, housekeepers like Elizabeth and I met with last night, who have health care plans that have been negotiated over time, sweat and blood. And that is the truth for so many Americans right now.
Thank you.
There are 149 million Americans that would lose their current health insurance under Senator Sanders' bill.
Senator,
that's what it says on page 8, and I don't think we should forget that.
On that note, I want to turn it over to my colleague, Chuck Todd.
Senator Sanders, I'm going to stay on this topic, on the culinary, on this issue with the Culinary Union. Obviously, their leaders are warning their members about that your health care plan will take away their health care plan, take away private insurance completely. There are some Democrats who like you a lot, but worry that this plan, Medicare for All, is going to take away private insurance and that it goes too far. Are they right?
No. Let me be very clear. 2 points. For 100 years, from Teddy Roosevelt to Barack Obama, this country has been talking about the need to guarantee health care for all people. And yet today, despite spending twice as much per capita, Chuck, twice as much, as any other major country on earth. We got 87 million who are uninsured or underinsured. We got over 60,000 people who die every year because they don't get to a doctor on time. We're getting ripped off outrageously by the greed and corruption of the pharmaceutical industry, which in some cases charges us 10 times more for the same drugs because of their price fixing. 500,000 people go bankrupt every year because they can't afford medical bills. So let me be very clear to my good friends in the Culinary Workers Union, a great union. I will never sign a bill that will reduce the health care benefits they have. We will only expand it for them, for every union in America, and for the working class of this country.
Senator Warren, you were all in on Medicare for all, and then you have since came up with a transition plan. Is it because of the impact on unions?
So I want to be clear. I've been to the culinary unions, healthcare facilities. They're terrific. You don't want to shut them down. You want to expand them. You want to see them all across Nevada and all across this country. Right. But we need to get everybody's healthcare plan out here. Mayor Buttigieg really has a slogan that was thought up by his consultants to paper over a thin version of a plan that would leave millions of people unable to afford their health care. It's not a plan, it's a PowerPoint. And Amy's plan is even less. It's like a Post-it note, insert plan here. Bernie has started very much, has a good start, but instead of expanding and bringing in more people to help, instead his campaign relentlessly attacks everyone who asks a question or tries to fill in details about how to actually make this work. And then his own advisors say, probably won't happen anyway. Look, healthcare is a crisis in this country. My approach to this is we need as much help for as many people as quickly as possible and bring in as many supporters as we can. And if we don't get it all the first time, take the win and come back into the fight to ask for more. I promise,
guys, I'm going to get everybody in. I got you. Mayor Buttigieg, I think she name-checked you first. I'll let you go first.
You name-checked me second.
Yes, okay. I think Amy said.
I'm more of a Microsoft Word guy, and if you look at my plan, I don't know if there are any PowerPoints on it, but you can definitely find the document on PeteForAmerica.com, and you'll see that it is a plan that solves the problem, makes sure there is no such thing as an uninsured American, and does it without kicking anybody off the plan that they have. This idea that the union members don't know what's good for them is the exact kind of condescension and arrogance that makes people skeptical of the policies we've been putting forward. Here we have a plan that the majority of Americans support. Do you realize how historic that is? That the American people are ready in a way far beyond what was true even 10 years ago and what was available to President Obama at the time. There's a powerful American majority ready to undertake the biggest, most progressive reform we've had in healthcare in 50 years, just so long as we don't force it on anybody. What is wrong with that?
All right,
can I respond to that?
Let me go to Senator Klobuchar, and then I'll have you respond.
Okay.
All right, Senator Klobuchar. Well, I think the Post-it note came first, Senator. I don't know. I do think the Post-it note had came
I must
first.
say I take personal offense since Post-it notes were invented in my state.
You should 3M us. 3M.
Okay. So my plan is a public option. And according to all the studies out there, it would reduce premiums for 12 million people immediately. It would expand coverage for about that same number. It is a significant thing. It is what Barack Obama wanted to do from the very beginning. And the way I look at it, since we're in Vegas, when it comes to your plan, Elizabeth, and Bernie's on Medicare for all, you don't put your money on a number that's not even on the wheel. And why is Medicare for all not on the wheel? Why is it not on the wheel? Because 2/3 of the Democratic senators are not even on that bill. Because a bunch of the new House members that got elected see the problems with blowing up the Affordable Care Act. They see it right in front of them. And the truth is that when you see some troubled waters, you don't blow up a bridge, you build one. And so we need to improve the Affordable Care Act, not blow it up.
Let me just. I will. You name check 3 of them. Let me get Senator Sanders in there. You were.
Okay.
Go ahead, Senator Sanders. Okay. We'll get you in, Miss.
All right.
We got a lot of people in here that we got hit.
It's my turn, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Somehow or another, Canada can provide universal health care to all their people at half the cost. UK can do it, France can do it, Germany can do it, all of Europe can do it. Gee whiz, somehow or another, we are the only major country on earth that can't do it. Why is that? And I'll tell you why. It's because last year, the healthcare industry made $100 billion in profits. Pharmaceutical industry, top 6 companies, $69 billion in profit. And those CEOs are contributing to Pete's campaign and other campaigns up here.
Let's clear this up.
So maybe it is finally time that we said as a nation, enough is enough. The function of a rational healthcare system is not to make the pharmaceutical industry and the drug companies rich. It is to provide healthcare to all people as a human right, not a privilege.
Mr. Vice President,
no premiums, no
Mr. Vice President,
no deductibles.
Let's go ahead. And then Senator Warren. Mr. Vice President and Senator Warren.
Hey, I'm the only one on this stage that actually got anything done on health care. Okay? I'm the guy the president turned to and said, go get the votes for Obamacare. And I noticed what everybody's talking about is the plan that I first introduced. That is to go and add to Obamacare, provide a public option, a Medicare-like option. It cost and increase the subsidies. It cost a lot of money. It cost $750 billion over 10 years. But I pay for it by making sure that Mike and other people pay at the same tax rate their secretary pays at. That's how we get it paid, number one. Number two, you know, from the moment we passed that signature legislation, Mike called it a disgrace, number one. Number two, Trump decided to get rid of it. And number three, my friends here came up with another plan. But they don't tell you. When you ask Bernie how much it cost, the last time he said that, I think it was on your show, he said, we'll find out. We'll find out how, or something to that effect. It cost over $35 trillion bucks. Right. Let's get real.
Senator Warren, you get the final word on this. We're going to move to another question. Go ahead, Senator Warren. Go ahead, Senator Warren.
So I actually took a look at the plans that are posted. Mayor Buttigieg, there are 4 expenses that families pay, right? Premiums, deductibles, copays, and uncovered medical expenses. Mayor Buttigieg says he will put a cap only on the premiums. And that means families are going to pick up the rest of the cost. Amy, I looked online at your plan. It's 2 paragraphs. Families are suffering, and they need a plan. You can't simply stand here and trash an idea to give health care coverage to everyone without having a realistic plan of your own. And if you're not going to own up to the fact either that you don't have a plan or that your plan is going to leave people without health care coverage, full coverage, then you need to say so. I just want to say on this one, I was in Reno when I met a man who said he had diabetes. He gets his insulin through the VA, but his sister and his daughter also have diabetes. No way to pay for their insulin. 3 human beings right here in Nevada who are struggling. They share one insulin prescription.
Mayor Bloomberg, was Vice President Biden right? You weren't a fan of Obamacare?
I am a fan of Obamacare. At the beginning, Mr. Vice President, I just checked the record because you'd said one time that I was not. In 2009, I testified and gave a speech before the mayor's conference in Washington, advocating it and trying to get all the mayors to sign on. And I think at that time I wrote an article praising Obamacare. It was either in the New York Post or the Daily News. So the facts are I was there. Let me finish. Thank you. I was in favor of it. I thought it didn't go as far as we should. What Trump has done to this is a disgrace. The first thing we've got to do is get the White House and bring back those things that were left, and then find a ways to expand it. Another public option, having some rules about capping charges. All of those things. We shouldn't just walk away and start something that is totally new, untried.
Vice President Biden, go ahead.
The mayor said when we passed it the signature piece of this administration. It's a disgrace. They're the exact words. It was a disgrace. Look it up. Check it out.
Okay.
It was a disgrace.
Thank you.
I cover, by the way, I plan. You do not have surprise billing. You bring down drug prices. People are not, and it gives people all the things we're just talking about. I guess you're not got enough time to do it, but I'll get a chance to talk about it.
Thank you, sir. Lester?
All right.